So the day after the God encounter, the second day of it, um, God had, I remember standing near my bed, and he brought my attention to the fluorescent light near my bed, and it kind of just started buzzing. And he told me, I am electricity. When he told me that, I just got this feeling like God is just an element, like there's no physical representation. Um, there is, he's like energy and element. So as electricity, he's like this, he's like an intelligence. There's no form for him. He just is this vibration running through. And so it's he can express himself through forms. Um, and I'm sure he could choose a figure if he wanted to be represented in a human form. There's Jesus, but I think Jesus for me represents more each of us, Christ consciousness, which is showing us that ability. Um, but a separate entity than God. So when you think about like past lives and stuff, there's certain situations where maybe you had a life as something else, but it doesn't negate the spirit that you are now. It's just a piece of it. It's like saying who I was when I was 5 isn't who I am today. You're still you. That's a lot of other stuff, but so God is this intelligence that's just all encompassing, and has been around through everything. So, sometimes when I speak about God and people wonder why I'm very casual about it, or they tend to kind of watch what they say around me. Just like, you can't hide from God. Psychics and mediums are very pathetic. And I know most things are just natural reactions, but I think these things will start to fade out. But God is this abstract intelligence that knows everything we've ever thought, anyone has ever thought or done. And he's just kind of wickedly funny and the weirdest thing I've ever encountered, and the most loving thing, and funny, but sometimes tells the lamest jokes. Like, I don't, it just can be the most extreme of anything you can think of. But really, at the core, is love. Is there to teach us? Is there to help guide us lovingly with humor and as much ease as possible, but to find our strength. And let's see. So, God speaks in metaphors and emotions and all these things, everything that we can think of, and the way that we speak, the words that we use, the origins of anything have all started with one little seed. So, some of the things I say may, and the things I'm like, yeah, he told me this, and even to me they sound very odd. But I don't want it to. I want to include everything that's happened. And even to me, when I'm saying that, I'm like, oh, I don't want to tell this because it makes me look even nuttier, because I know the underlying basis of everything. I don't want it to take away from that. So, could be God puts things in where He needs to. So whatever is testing you, let it, just go with the flow. Another thing He told me as He was talking about me being a full moon. At that point, He told me that I was a third of the way through my life. That was died when I was 92. Of course, anything could change. And speaking of metaphors and all that stuff, it's gonna be this challenging. It's a really long time. But also talking about how, when it comes to that, stars, that we are transmissions, 3D the life forms of stars. And there are star mates, I guess. Whatever. One of the other things we talked about during the encounter, I mentioned the Beatles, and God told me that I had a guardian, someone that had been watching me throughout my life. And I kind of spoke with this spirit. I didn't know who it was at the time. And when God revealed who it was, it was just like, crap. And most of you know that I speak to John Lennon. And so John's been around since I was a little girl. I was born about 6 weeks after he died. And when I was around the age of 2 or 3, I had a dream. I've had a few reoccurring nightmares in my life, and 2 dreams I remember as a child involving God. The second one is just really weird. So the one that included John was, I was in bed and God came and got me out of bed, and we're walking through what was like a storage facility. It was like big metal doors, gray doors. God was in like white outfit. I was in my pajamas that I went to bed in, and we're walking up and down different these hallways, and he's telling me about the world, talking about how it's going to be when I'm older, things are going to happen that I just need to remember that he's there, and that I'm going to be okay. Things are going to be hard for about 30 years, and then things will get better. But that I would make it through. And so and then we stop, and he tells me that he wants me to choose a door. He said, any door that we've passed by, or, just choose any door in this place. It was a huge place with rows and rows of doors. And I walked back down towards this one aisle. I stop in front of a door, and I'm like, this one. He's like, are you sure? I'm like, yeah. And he opens the door, and there's a body of this guy in a white suit, white pants, white suit. No shoes, and his hair is down to here, dark, blonde, and his face is blurred, and God's like, I can't show you his face, you'll have to find it. You'll find him on your own when you're older. And then, so I just had this sense that I was drawn to his energy. And as soon as he told me that, it was just like, oh crap. And there are times when I was a little girl that I recall. I've always I'm used to being watched. I always had the feeling of being watched, and I would see the image of this guy in maybe like his early 20s that used to watch me out of the window. I had this playroom, and he would stand outside the window or in the curtains and watch me. And I'd stare at him, and I'd wonder, like, why is he just staring at me? Why doesn't he say something? But, my parents don't talk to strangers. And so I just go on. It's just kind of had to get used to somebody who was watching me play, sing, dance around. And then at night, he would be in my closet, of course. And then in another house we lived in, he would sit at the edge of the stairway. And I always thought it kind of looked like Meatloaf. He had that long hair brushed back. And other times throughout my life, so now when I talk to John, like we'll talk about old memories, and I'll realize where he was, or it's just really weird. But anyway, to me that's who John Lennon is. This person that's experienced these things with me, like knows everything I've been through, is kind of like been able to see it through my perspective along my life. So whether or not anybody believes it doesn't matter to me. That's what it is for me. So I try not to talk about it too much, but I don't want to dim myself just because people don't believe. It's not my problem. For John, if the purpose of experiencing through me, and I'm not the only person that John speaks to. He's got this kind of his gig. Stop, dude. Come on. So for him, it's like being able to see life through my eyes. Not really being able to do too much about it. Spirits can manipulate somewhat the energy around, and I feel protected in some ways by John. But for him to observe life of a girl who wasn't famous, I'm no John Lennon. To see what it's like